Well, hello there, all my friends on the interwebs who love miniatures. This is Monday, the 5th of September 2022. I'm Dakian, and I'm here to ramble. Specifically, I'm here to ramble about these miniatures I finished painting. These are all Reaper Bones from the Bones 5 Kickstarter. And up front we have some of the characters. We have the sort of Vampire Knight or Vampire Lord. We have the Chaos Warrior dude. And we have the Sorceress or Wizardly Warforged. And then in the back you might notice we have something special. We have the Dao. This is the Earth Genie. The three other genies are still to be continued, so to speak. But I finished this one. And I also finished some of the smaller things, like this little tree stump guy, the Were Cabbage, who's out there to eat you, and this giant weasel. Now, as I mentioned, I didn't want to just paint it like an ordinary brown or red weasel because I've already got one of those. So I looked for various weasel-like animals on the net, and I found this picture of what's called a yellow-throated marten, which I believe is actually somewhat smaller than a weasel, but it's in the same family of creatures, and so I painted it sort of in that color scheme because it was more interesting. I briefly considered just a mink, but that's just plain black. That's too boring. But reasonable haul. 7 finished minis. I'm happy with that. As mentioned previously, I'm aiming for between 5 and 10 per week during working weeks. So 7 is right there in the average range. And yeah. And yeah, I'm reasonably pleased with the paint job as well. I mean, these are just Reaper Bones. I'm not going whole hog on them. I just want them to be a good tabletop standard, and I feel they accomplished that. So, let's move on to some projects in the works. We have a lot to go through, so we'll have to do this in stages. First off, we have the stuff still not done from previous projects. There's a little bit more paint on each of these guys. Not a whole lot. Not much more to say. Aiming to get, like, out of these 4, at least 2 more done by next week. We'll see which ones. Stay tuned. Yeah. So this dwarf and these 2 orcs, the lighting here is pretty bad. They've been assembled, primed, and in some cases given an undercoat. This guy turned out to be much more complex and three-dimensional than I thought. I'm a little annoyed by one thing here. This sword scabbard has a ring on the underside, but those sorts of rings are what you hang it by in chains or ropes or straps. It has to be on the top side, but the way this is sculpted, there was no other way to attach this sword. What was the sculptor thinking? I'm seriously thinking of just cutting this ring off and just leaving it because it annoys me so much. I mean, having 2 swords strapped to your back like this is unrealistic to begin with, but it makes no physical sense. Not much. Well, I mean, I suppose this one could be this scabbard could be hanging from a belt. It could be a side scabbard, but there's no drawing swords from the back. That's my stance on that debate. Anyway, we'll see what I do about him. And as for the rest of the stuff I said I was going to prep, it has partially been prepped. So you can see this has been assembled and based, not primed yet. Same thing here. There's also been some gap filling. There's some plastic putty and some seams. Don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to avoid touching this guy by the tail because it broke off while I was cleaning it and I had to re-glue it. That's why you can possibly see a little lumpy portion in the middle of the tail section if you know what to look for. But like this guy. And here's the monster I couldn't quite describe. The shipwreck revenant. So there's like a skeleton here who I assume is controlling the whole thing, but it's built out of shipwreck parts, and there's a lot of parts here. Well, it's mostly wood, metal, and what I assume is coral, and some little portions like a figurehead which might be painted, but well, it's going to take a while, and it has a lot of different parts. It's surprisingly stable. It has a small base for its size, but these parts that are projecting forward aren't very heavy because, you know, they're soft plastic. So it doesn't seem to be at any risk for tipping over. I could probably just leave it on this base. But yeah, I'll fairly soon get to work on priming these and start applying some painted weather, perhaps.
Now, the reason this guy hasn't been prepped is, well, if you look at the arms on this sprue, you might notice an issue. One of them's missing a hand, or rather a fist. It's simply been cut off. Like, well, it looks like there just wasn't enough metal poured into the mold. So this is a miscast. I've reported it to Reaper and they're sending me a replacement, but it'll probably be another week before it gets here. So not sure what I'm going to do with this body. Whether it's probably going in my bits box and never getting out of it. Oh well. Well, for new projects to start up, I'm going to be really conservative this time and choose very few of them. And they're all coming from the Bones 5 core sets, which you can see here, the big box. There's still a lot left in it. What did I choose? Well, you always need a few character minis because I need something to bring to painting units at the game store. So I have these two, I think both of them are Elven. Yes, they both have 20 years. Elven female adventurers. And yeah, one is kind of a spellcaster, one seems like a ranger or a ranged fighter or something. And then we have the golems. We have a stone golem, a clay golem, and this interesting thing, which is a stained glass golem. Quite unusual and unique. So I'll have to paint it with clear paints, of course, translucent paints, so we can maintain the glass effect. Let's see how I do that. So only adding 5 minis to the queue. I think that's enough for now. And yeah, and that is also enough for this episode. So thank you for watching. Please give it a like, subscribe, share, comment, and all that rest of the stuff. But I'll see you again next week. Same day of the week, same channel, same Dakian. But for now, I'm signing off.